Peace Clan is asking about offensive line or cornerback play. What is the biggest question going forward?
Both. Well, I mean, offensive line is where the whole program kind of derives. I mean, Urban Meyer said it years ago. It's an offensive line driven program. You've got to move the football. You have got to change field position. You have got to put points on the board. That's what makes the world go round, basically. And the offensive line is the catalyst for all that. And you've got two pretty good pieces, Donovan Jackson and Matthew Jones. Remains to be seen if Donovan Jackson could step out and rep at tackle or if Matthew Jones will step in and play at center. But, at the worst, you've got two studs there that you're going to build around. I think Josh Fryer is ready to be an every down player. He was the visiting lineman, the sixth lineman that would come in some jumbo sets. Then what do you do next? You figure out, is this Enoch Vamahi? Is this Jacob James? Is this Zen Michalski? Those are probably three names. And Carson Hinsman, I think, is probably in this discussion as well. I don't have a firm grasp beyond those seven names right there who would even be in this mix. You've got a lot of other offensive linemen on this roster, like Trey LaRue and Grant Toutant and I don't have it right in front of me, but there's probably two or three other guys. Oh, Tegra Tushbola is going to be probably in this mix. I'd put him with that first group of 7 or 8 right there as well. So they need to identify what their best 5-man unit is, and then they need to identify who their top 2 backups are. And the good thing about this is they have guys like Matthew Jones who can cross-train and play various positions. And, as we've seen, just because you start at tackle doesn't mean you can't also play a couple series at guard if need be, or whatever it may turn out to be. Fryer is a guy who could play guard or tackle, as we've seen. So to me, this is the fun of what spring football is all about. Justin Fry is going to mix and match these guys all spring. And I'm sure he and his grad assistants will be sitting there charting every drill, charting every interior drill, charting every 11 on 11 to see who was having winning assignments on every rep and who wasn't, and who can execute what they need to be done. And Ohio State's offensive line this past year was outstanding. The year before, other than the Michigan game, they were outstanding. So to me, there's a lot on the offensive line to maintain those standards. And again, as I say, I am completely in the dark on – we don't get to watch enough practice to know who the coaches really, really, really believe are the next guys up. We see it in the games with Fryer and Enoch Vamahi. He played quite a bit, as well. They kind of split time in the Michigan game with Matthew Jones out. So that's very telling. I think those two guys, Fryer and Vamahi, and then Michalski and Tegra Tushbola, there's 4 names right there. So, and Jacob James was listed as the backup center, and he did get in there in some mop-up late in games, but is he really the answer? We don't know. Is Matthew Jones want to tell the coaches, hey, move me there, that way the NFL can draft me knowing I can play either guard position or a center position if need be? And we see with the Bengals, they're down 2 or 3 offensive linemen. How important is it to have guys who can cross-train and play various positions? You can make a career off of that, being a journeyman offensive lineman in the NFL, if you have that ability. So a lot of moving pieces and parts there, but I think you got to be excited about where this is going. Justin Fry seems to be one of the top offensive line coaches in the country, and he's going to have his hands full this spring trying to sort through all that, in my opinion.
One quick question about Matthew Jones. You guys know better than I do that sometimes one play, a series of plays, a game, small section of the season haunts a guy and becomes his, tagline with the fan base. And with Matthew Jones, it was the Northwestern game. There were a few series in there and around that game where he got a bit pushed around, blown up, and then suddenly there's an issue with Matthew Jones and then the interior offensive line. And I'm not saying that wasn't the case, But how much do we think that was overblown in his particular level of play?
Well, I think he was injured the entire year. And so they were talking about how he's still learning to play with that injury and play through it. So that was an ongoing thing for most of the year, at a foot thing. And then later in the season got it rolled over on. So I think had he not been injured, he would not be back. So I think it's the injury that held him back that now held him back and then brings him back so that he can show the NFL what he can do. Now you've got an issue where they need him at center, but does he want to move to center for one final year when he knows this is his contract year? He wants to put his best self on tape, and his best self on tape is going to be a guard rather than center, even though going to center shows the versatility that the NFL likes. And Paris Johnson playing guard as a sophomore showed the NFL what they want to see about the different things he can do. So I expect him to be the center, but I think there's a side that is like, I'd rather just stay at guard because it's what I know. And he has played center in the past. He has, like, if they were going to lose Luke Whippler for a long time last year, I think it would have been Matt Jones there instead of Jacob James. And Ohio State always has a backup center and then the real backup center, and he's usually playing guard at that same time. So I think getting him back is, if they lost him, then you're really in bad straits. And to go back to the original question, yeah, the cornerbacks are fine compared to what the offensive line is looking like, and you're going to need some guys to step up. And this is where Justin Fry really, really earns the money. And we'll see what he also does with the running game. But getting Matt Jones back was huge, and I think the injury is the real reason why he's back.